And now for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning, let's bring in a RISE analyst, Dr. Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance, and happy Easter.
Good morning to you. Happy Easter. How are you today?
I'm good. Very good.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yolanda, good morning.
Good morning. It's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you too. Okay, to look at the papers with us today, we have Dr. Iyobosa Owogaren. He is the editor, Nation's Capital, of This Day newspaper. We'll begin with This Day. There we have 2027. North will decide its stand in next 6 months, says Hakeem Babe-Ahmed. He insists no one can win the presidency without it. And then Malami insists Al-Makura Masari-led group can't speak for CPC bloc ahead of 2027. Dr. Hakeem Babe-Ahmed was the special advisor on political matters to President Bola Tinubu. He, however, resigned recently. He said, and I quote, "In the next 6 months, the North will decide where it stands. If the rest of the country wants to join us, fine. If not, we will go our own way. One thing is clear, nobody can become president of Nigeria without Northern support." Well, let's go to Abuja Inquirer this morning. There we have the blowback from the statement very soon. It's come very, very quick. There in Abuja Inquirer, it says, Babe-Ahmed under fire. No zone can be president without others, according to Nigerians. I mean, as you can imagine, this statement by Babe-Ahmed is being viewed by some as blatantly arrogant. I mean, politically, the North also needs the rest of the country in the union. After all, the boasting, after all the boasting, former President Muhammadu Buhari could not win election 3 times without the rest of the country until they had an alliance. Your take on this story, Dr. Owogaren?
Yeah, I agree with you. Although some people might want to consider Babe-Ahmed's statement as part of the unfolding political game in Nigeria ahead of 2027 general election. But this seemingly arrogant posturing and divisive statement from Babe-Ahmed is not helpful to our economic, to our political growth, especially at a time when Nigerians are saying that we should build a nation. Of course, it's a political game, but the point I'm making is that there is nobody in this country that can win an election without the support of any part of the country, not just the North alone. You can't win an election without the support of the South, West, the South, South, the Southeast. Like you rightly said, a former president, Muhammadu Buhari, contested elections almost 3 times in this country, and he failed woefully until he got the support from Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led a group from the Southwest, then from the South-South. So for somebody to be arrogating to himself the absolute power of the North, that without them you can't get to the presidency, for me is unhelpful, and it is not helping our attempt to build a nation as a country.
Which North is...
Yes. Charles, I was going to ask,
exactly. So which North is Babe-Ahmed referring to? Because the North is so stratified at this point. Is it the Fulani North or the Hausa North? Is it the Northeast or the Northwest or the North Central? Well, if he's talking about the North, and then, he's talking about who determines who the president is, let him not forget that the North is not as united as he is making out. And in any case, in that particular article, other northern leaders have also come out to challenge that position, more like saying that, look, Babe-Ahmed, you are basically on your own. Malami, the former Attorney General of the Federation, has also chipped in, saying that, I think, was it referring to Ganduje and other former leaders of the CPC. So even that particular bloc is not united in this position. So it's not as if the entire North is speaking with one voice, sharing the same position with Hakeem Babe-Ahmed. So the truth of the matter is that no region in this country can arrogate to itself that position, that power of being the determining factor of who wins the presidential election or whatever come 2027. In the east, you have an ethnic bloc. Here in the southwest, you have an ethnic bloc. In the north, you have it also divided. So definitely, it's not the north speaking with one voice. It's one person's opinion.
Yeah, yeah. That cohesive union in northern Nigeria has been falling apart for some time now, and yeah, they probably have to be careful the way they throw words around. And of course, I think this is also an indication of, you know, the fact that the so-called union and unity of the country is a fluke. You know, if you do not want to build a country based on equality or a country of equals, it will continue to be a source of friction and division for that nation. Let's see the other papers this morning. The Punch, killings, Shatima visits Plateau today as Danjuma calls for self-defense. Let's tie that story to The Guardian. Pull up The Guardian, please. Here, top story in The Guardian says, despair in Benue, Plateau, as killings hit over 284 in 3 months. National Security Advisor has been to Plateau. The Vice President Kashim Shatima will be there. But former Minister of Defense, Lieutenant General Theophilus Danjuma, retired, has called on Nigerians to defend themselves. This is not the first time he's making this call. He says relying on the government solely is no longer realistic. He says, and I quote, Nigerians must rise and defend themselves before these bandits overrun the entire country. Dr. Wugiaran, coming from a man of his standing, this is grave.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But what I am reading in many newspapers is about churning out the number of people that have been killed. You know, but I think as journalists, we should go beyond that. We should try and find out the root cause of this problem. This narrative of oh, they are terrorists, they are bandits, who, I mean, will not help the situations. In conflict reporting, we must get to the root of the matter, speak to all the parties involved in this conflict, and see how we can help the community resolve this problem. I mean, there's indication that what is happening in Plateau State, for example, is just a communal clash. Now, about 2 days ago or 3 days ago, the governor of that state set up a committee, you know, to look into the matter, which means that he has been able to identify the ethnic groups who are involved in this fight or in these killings. I mean, it also suggests that they know themselves. So, and the point we are making is that what is the governor doing to ensure that this community who are involved in these killings or involved in these communal clash are brought together and see how they can resolve the problem. You remember during the last government in Plateau State, is it Lanlong now? Yeah, Lanlong, yeah. There was a peaceful atmosphere, you know, in that state because the guy was able to bring all the ethnic groups, appointed them in strategic positions. For example, the commissioner for local government was an outside Fulani person in a very powerful position, and that actually reduced the tension and down the tensions in Plateau State. But when you find leaders in that state who keep on identifying, oh, these are foreigners, these are indigenes, and these are people who have lived in that community for years, for centuries, for decades, and suddenly you started saying that, look, they must go back to where they come from. Such action would not help the situation. I think the governor is on the right track. He has set up a committee to resolve the differences, and I'm sure at the end of the day, that will also help in resolving the conflict that we are seeing in Plateau State, because there are some communities in Plateau State that are at peace with themselves, you know. So the fact that 2 or 3 local governments are involved in this conflict is an indication that there must be a solution, and that solution could come from a political, the political will to bring everybody together and see how they can resolve the problem.
Okay, Charles, let me bring you in here because Dr. Wugiaran, we also know that this is beyond communal clashes. We've been having this for some years now, so it's much more complicated. And some would say that the issue is not that we do not know what is actually going on, what the root cause is, how we've had so many committees over the years. The problem is that we have been unable to actually solve the problem. It's not that we don't know what is going on. Charles, if you want to add
You
to
know,
that?
saying it's a communal clash, I think, is being very, very economical with the truth. Even if it's coming from the governor, I think it's just a damage control strategy. It started in Bokos. It spread to Bassa. It doesn't mean it has ended yet. And then what about Benue State? 4 or 5 local governments, and it's the same group of invaders. Of course, I mean, there's always this narrative that, yes, we have, you know, the herders who are nomads, and they are ranging all over West Africa. But then the fact that they carry arms is bad enough.
Okay.
And when they say it's, you know, farmer-herder clashes, you have one of the groups actually armed with sophisticated firearms, and the other group are usually the victims. When the locals were interviewed, they actually said exactly who their attackers and who their invaders were. So yes, if they say communal clashes, then it is the residents of the community who are usually the victims.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's all over the North Central, not just communities in Plateau alone.
Okay, we have to move quickly,
I just
please.
wanted to add to what you
Dr.
said.
Ugaran,
Yeah.
let's move quickly, please. We're out of time. We're almost out of time. Daily Sun, Pastor Bakare Blas Tinubu says President Motopark politics has destroyed the National Assembly. Pastor Tunde Bakare blamed President Bola Tinubu for weakening institutions, turning the National Assembly to a rubber stamp institution, and saying it's one of the weakest and most compromised since 1999. I mean, he's correct somewhat in this analysis, although one could add that it's been the weakest under the APC government, because the last time we had a strong opposition in the National Assembly, or a virile National Assembly, somewhat independent, was during the People's Democratic Party. Anyone can jump in here briefly.
I'd like to jump in and say that I agree with the sentiments of Pastor Bakare in what he said. It's very timely, considering, you know, there was an Easter, we're just having the Easter holidays now, and we had reports that people are struggling to buy food, people are struggling with simple things, people are struggling to live, struggling with transportation and all sorts of dilemmas. And this is very timely to kind of point fingers in the right direction and ask for political accountability for the citizens of Nigeria, because the truth is, it's about time that our religious leaders start speaking up against what is happening in the political space, because they essentially are also the voice of the people.
I agree with Bakari to some extent. Tinubu, because of his kind of politics, has been able to capture virtually all the institutions in Nigeria. I'm getting to a point where legislative arms of government is becoming a unit of the executive arms of government, the same thing with the judiciary. But do you blame Tinubu? It has to do with the leadership of the National Assembly. When you have a Senate president who keep on saying that, oh, whatever the president brings to the National Assembly, we are going to approve it. You know, it's a sign that the leadership of the National Assembly under Akpabio is not, has become a rubber stamp, you know, to the executive arms of government. We've had Senate president in the past, Senator Chuba Kadigbo, Senator Saraki, Senator the man who scuttled the third-term agenda. So these are powerful leaders of the national. Kenan Amani. These are powerful.
There was Adolphus Wabara.
Yes, Adolphus Wabara. These are powerful Senate leaders who insisted that, look, there must be separation of power. Because the reason why we have separation of power is that when the executive arm of government is going astray, the National Assembly is in a position to correct that. But this present Senate under the leadership of Senator Akpabio, has become a rubber stamp, and it's very unfortunate, and it's not helping our attempt to deepen democracies in our country.
Delhi Independent. Here we have FG, 80 years Enugu Airport concession. A plan absurd, reckless, according to experts. Experts say the federal government's plan to concession the Akanwe-Biam International Airport for 80 years is unusual, and that no airport should be concessioned for more than 30 to 40 years. They also argue that the proposed agreement with Aero Alliance Consortium lacked careful planning and robust contractual agreements required for a successful outcome. We also know that Enugu Airport is currently shut down for runway repairs. But back to the concession, we do not have all the details. However, 80 years is a very long time for an agreement. As such, these experts are right to pick this proposal apart to make sure that we're making the right decision, right, Charles? Or what do you think, Charles?
You know, sometimes I feel as if we are focusing on the wrong things. An airport project, yes, of course, commendable as it is, but really, is that what the state needs? Is that exactly what the focus should be? I think...
but that's one of the very old airports before
yes,
the new one started, yeah.
Oh, of course. I mean, whether it's the old one or the new one, but at least we should have a situation where we take stock of what the needs, the immediate needs of the people are. Focus on that before we now, go out to, start building infrastructure that might not necessarily have a positive impact on the lives of the ordinary citizen on the street. But sometimes these governors would want to leave a legacy. Probably the airport will be named after him anyway. So you can point to that and say that, well, that's what I left when I was there in power. But I think we should be able to get our priorities right.
Enugu Airport is very important to the south. It's one of the old ones in the regions, and it was only made an international airport under President Goodluck Jonathan. So can you imagine that? That the whole eastern region or southeast didn't have an international airport until under President Jonathan. Anyway, like I said, no details on that story, but I think they're trying to work on it to see that it's actually in the long-term interest of the people. Let's go back to this day again quickly before we go to the international headlines. Here it says, Senate-led leader to battle insecurity, we're creating the legal framework for state police. The Senate leader, Opayemi Bamidele, says this will help curb insecurity in the country. Well, when the idea of state police was mooted many years ago, there was strong opposition to it. But today, in the current circumstances of mass slaughter and the calls for self-defense, it's like state police is no longer like a misnomer. It's beginning to make sense to many people, Dr. Wogiaren, briefly.
Yeah, I agree with you that we need a state police because in a country of about 230 million people, we cannot be deciding the security architecture of this country from Abuja. So we need to decentralize that structures. So having the state police will help in a long way in responding to the security challenges that we have in this country. But like I said, it's not just about legal framework. It's about the determination, the political will on the part of the government at all levels, to confront insecurity. You say, oh, security, politics is local. So we should also emphasize the fact that security is also local. So the local government, the state government, the community leaders have a huge responsibility, to design the framework that will enable us to respond to this insecurity that we are facing in this country. Okay,
Yolanda, let me bring you on to the next story. Daily Mail. Here we have Starmer must break his silence on trans judgment. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is under pressure to back the Supreme Court's landmark ruling on gender, as it emerges that two front benchers are plotting to defy the ruling. Although the government welcomed the ruling, Sir Keir Starmer, who was on holiday when it passed, has yet to say anything on this. It's a major decision that's rattled some, as well as, others are delighted by the statement. But I think it's significant for Sir Keir Starmer to say something.
Absolutely significant for him to give his own view on this. I think leadership accountability is very important, and he needs to say where he stands, and people need to know, which side he's leaning on, and if he is for what has been, the judgment that has been passed, or if he's against it. And I think as well, there's a bit of tension because this will also impact the unity in the party, because this then will now, people will be torn between which decision they stand with. So I wait and see what happens, but definitely I agree it is a must. Keir Starmer has to say something on this. The public perception needs it. They need to know where he stands.
Yeah, you're right, because, you know, within the Labour Party, we have a lot of trans activists.
It's very true.
And so as the elections are coming, it might affect the Labour Party in a way. Yeah,
it definitely will.
It's a very sensitive topic.
But is there anything the Prime Minister can do about the judgment of the Supreme Court?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, whatever he says, is it going to change the judgment?
It will change it.
It won't change the judgment, but it will change how people align with
Unless, of course,
him.
if you're saying that if he speaks and then it affects the political fortunes of the Labour Party, that's a different matter altogether.
Or there should be a move to amend the law.
No, so the point, it doesn't matter. You know, he may not be able to change the law, but whatever he says is important for people. They want to hear from the Prime Minister. That's the point. And so whatever he says will affect the party politically.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's see whether we can have the Daily Telegraph. Race to drop WHO powers could push Britain into lockdown. The UK must opt out of the World Health Organization international health regulations by July 19 to avoid a coordinated response to any future COVID-style pandemic. Essentially, what this is saying, I mean, we know the US has already left the World Health Organization, and so, you know, a lot of people don't want to be tied by this, you know, rules and regulations during pandemic, you know, because we all lived through it, and it was not a very wonderful situation. So there are a lot of fears that countries might begin to pull out of the World Health Organization because of this, ahead of the next pandemic. Then finally, the Independent, we have here a photo of a frail Pope as he blesses crowds at the Vatican yesterday after a meeting with the US Vice President, J.D. Vance. Pope Francis is 88 and has been quite poorly, and Catholic faithfuls were delighted to see him yesterday. Any, you know, overall very brief comment before we call it a day?
I think Pope Francis has really tried his best. He's fought this battle very hard. I remember back in February when one of his lungs collapsed, and I think the world was pretty much expecting the worst. It's really good to see him back on his feet. But these talks with J.D. Vance, I think they should wait a bit, because let's not politicize the Easter season and just enjoy it and keep it holy.
It's already happened, so there's nothing we can do about that. Anyway, that's where we'll leave it. Dr. Iyobosa Owugiaren, thank you so much for joining us today. Editor, Nation's Capital of This Day newspaper.
Thank you very much.
And thank you so much, Dr. Constance, for driving today's newspaper review. And so that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.